Hello everyone, good afternoon. I think the room looks a little empty, but it's right before lunchtime. But I'll try to keep this conversation as engaging as possible. So, before I begin the conversation, I need a quick set of hands of how many people here have actually gotten something delivered through a drone? Anyone? One? Okay, no worries. So, not many, but here's what's interesting. While most of us haven't had a drone deliver our groceries yet, India has thousands of companies of drone deliveries where, we're building systems to actually deliver maybe a pizza in 10 minutes, but at the same time, defending our nation as well. So, and that raises a fascinating question of who really owns the sky. While one is about speed and accessibility, the other is about security and national defense. So this has created a flux of, with the rulebook that helps drone delivery scale could also create vulnerabilities, and the rulebook that helps keeps us secure in turn slows innovation. So for the next 30 minutes, that's what we're going to unpack with the people at the center of this story. I would love to introduce Commander Abhiram Sripathy, Vice President, Growth and Investment, Indrajaal, Ankit Kumar, founder and CEO, Skye Air Mobility, and Smit Shah, President, Drone Federation of India. So let's start with Abhiram, because security often gets discussed after innovation. You signed roughly a 100 crore rupee Ministry of Defense contract and launched India's first anti-drone patrol vehicle in November. So what is the threat that you're designing against today, and something that as compared to that was not designed 18 months ago?
Um, okay. Prior to this, right, I've been in the startup ecosystem for roughly about 8 odd years, and prior to this, I was in the Navy as on the customer side, right, asking for RFPs and things like that. It's really exciting times right now because we're starting to talk about defense tech. Okay, in the past 1 or 2 odd years, 18 months, right? Ops Sindoor, that was a trigger point. So, given that that is a trigger point, people who are already in the defense side of things kind of realize that with the Atmanirbharta also in place, we quickly realize that unless we do something for standing up on our own, figuring out innovation on our own, there is no way going to be a future for India. Okay, so for Indrajaal in particular, Opsindur was really an exciting time because we were testing 2 demo units on the field, and we got a call, and it was like flying an aircraft. Right now, we're flying an airplane. Get your demo units here. We need to protect our base. We said, look, it's just a demo unit. They said, no, I don't care. I need to protect my base. You figure it out. So in 48 hours, we deployed at record speed, which we generally take about 3 months to deploy, and we protected that naval air base in a way we didn't even imagine at that time. Okay. Now that trigger point was what actually bolstered the commercial aspect for Indrajaal. People started recognizing that Indrajaal can actually protect assets, critical infrastructure across the border, internal to the homeland as well. That's probably the turning point, right? Other than that, right now we are seeing a lot of interest coming in because of other geopolitical scenarios as well. Middle East is very evident. We are seeing something, a huge cost asymmetry when it comes to defending the low altitude airspace, right? A 30,000 rupees drone, or let's say a Shahid drone, costs roughly about 30K US dollars, is being countered with a $1 million missile, a Patriot missile. Huge cost asymmetry. That's a problem we need to solve. And that's where Indrajal is kind of positioning itself, saying that if we are countering drones, wherever it is, we have to be cost effective.
Lovely. Thank you for your perspective, Commander. I think I'm going to take a flip side to this and, shoot a question to Ankit. You've crossed 4 million deliveries, to be precise. And at what point does drone delivery move from being a tech business to actually solving the logistic side of things?
Right. I think there's no one concrete answer to that. It's essentially you have to see that how it's actually bridging the whole gap which currently exists in the market, right? What we're solving for is the biggest cost which is currently there, and the cost is not very relative. The cost is more in terms of how the human efficiency is getting wasted. It's my belief that humans are meant to do much greater things and things with very high skill. But look at what has changed in the last 10 to 15 years. We are still doing very laborious activities. Um, the human delivery agents are still rushing, risking their lives, and going and making your deliveries happen in 10 minutes because you want it in 10 minutes. That's not going to sustain for a very long period of time, as the demand centers are increasing and the demand is no longer limited to metropolitan cities. It has gone to tier 1, tier 2. Everybody wants things in 10 minutes now. What are we creating? We are creating a force which is going to destruct itself, which we're creating a force which is a large workforce which is essentially going into doing something where you don't need to use your brains. And the whole human intellectual is shifting towards a very different zone altogether, right? That's what we embarked on solving by bringing in the physical AI into the whole picture and bridging in the gap where the consumer demand for a 10 minutes delivery can be sorted by the drones coming into the picture, and then the robots doing the last leg of the delivery, and eventually remove the whole human delivery agents from the loop, and let's make them do something much greater and much valuable, which they can do with their own times and things like that. And I'm a big advocate of UBI, which is eventually going to happen, the universal basic income, where people don't need to work to earn income. And I think it's just one of the things that we started picking it up and focusing on how drones can go and do deliveries, which we're doing today. So 4 million deliveries, we still feel that that's like 0.1% of the industry opportunity unlocked. This huge opportunity which exists in this country, and there's this big amount of government support which has gone in that direction, in terms of helping companies like us to think beyond the conventional, to think on really going and creating something which is at par, at parallel with how the US or how any other country does it, right? So the 4 million deliveries made us the third largest company in terms of volume in the entire world. And that places India to be the third largest country in terms of drone deliveries, right? So that's just the beginning of it.
Lovely. So you spoke about two things. One is demand and physical AI. I would like to sort of touch upon the demand part of things. Since we are sitting in Mumbai, and I know that you're expanding to Mumbai and Pune and other cities as well. How do you think, as you scale, what are some of the bottlenecks or challenges that you would face as you scale in the future?
I think every geography is very different, right? And the geopolitical scenarios in every geography is very vibrant that you have to deal with, right? For us, thankfully, it's not about the federal or the central government and the policies which sort of disorients things for us. It doesn't happen that way. It's very much aligned to what we want to do and what we want to establish out here. It's, I think, the regional geopolitical stuff that plays a very vital role in terms of how a state is looking at, how a city is looking at taking up the whole infrastructure and then building something on top of that, and how the local players are actually perceiving that particular thing, right? So it's more about unlocking those elements that we are focusing on right now. We're very deep in north right now. We're doing Gurgaon, Delhi NCR to be specific. We're driving things out there right now. We just opened Bangalore, where we started to do some bit of deliveries in Bangalore. We're doing about 200 shipment delivery every day in Bangalore right now. Small numbers, but it's to grow up and it's to go up from there on. Mumbai Pune is something that we want to start in the first quarter of next year. We see there's a lot of vibrancy here, there's a lot of opportunity here, and with that opportunity, we see there's tons of things that we need to go and build on the infrastructure piece of it, right? Because infra is the key piece of it. Infra is the key layer of it. If you go and build the infrastructure, everything else will fit in place. The vehicles are there. You get the infrastructure ready, which can fit in and which can utilize that vehicle. And then you have the regulatory frameworks which are supporting and which are very progressive on the fronts to help around industries like us to grow.
Lovely. So I think while one wants accessibility, we are looking at secure innovation as well, which brings me to Smith about how do you sit between the two, and what are some of the policy levers, and how do you look at both the sectors performing in tandem?
So thank you for the question. I think it is not actually one versus the other, and this nuance people need to understand that drones need to enable deliveries and surveillance of various areas for enhancing law enforcement security and do inspection across large pipelines and oil and gas lines and all of that. So this is all very important use case to increase efficiency, collect more data, improve decision making, and finally make things better in life of industry and people. And counter drone is actually not to fight with these drones but to fight with someone who would misuse potentially a UAV, or for both careless purposes or for criminal purposes. So careless, when I say, essentially someone who is very curious and who wants to fly in an area where they should actually not be flying, and maybe they are risking security or safety of various aircrafts and people on the ground, or criminal people who want to basically sort of find out and create a mess in a public gathering or something like that. So I think both are working in tandem, and there is a infrastructure being created to uh, analyze and track all the compliant drones and feed this information to counter drones, so that when Indrajaal turns on their counter drone system, it does not end up jamming Ankit's Skye Air UAV which is delivering a pizza, but at the same time also identifies another drone that may be an illegal drone and jams it. So we are the ones who are understanding this problem in detail, working with various stakeholders in industry and in government to bring all of this together, and also building some kind of technology protocols to bring all this data together, fuse it and exchange it between different parties to ensure that this becomes a reality. So in the future, imagine a future where you will have two drones flying in the air and a counter drone system will jam one but not the other because one is illegal, one is not. Both flying in the same vicinity. So that's where this is going to go to.
Lovely. I would love to sort of add on to what you just mentioned about the global trends and developments affecting the entire drone sector in general, right? So India has 400 plus drone companies and 50 plus component companies as well. So what is the honest gap to global cost parity on components, and what is the policy lever that the federation is addressing at the moment?
So India now has more than 600 drone companies, and 1.5 years back we went out on a mission of essentially promoting indigenization or buying more Indian components and making sure that we are not dependent on uh, China and various other international supply chains. To our surprise, we found 200 plus component companies in India. So there are more than 200 companies who, big or small, work with one or many drone companies in the country, and we put all of them on a single platform. It's available online. Anyone can go and have a look at it. And once we brought all of them on board, we started understanding that the market is still not picking up as we would like to, because there are particularly two challenges. Lot of the components can be built here, but no one is funding them, and definitely industry will not be able to fund it alone because I have no surety of whether my component will be bought or not. So this is challenge number one. So someone has to do initial funding, or at least do partial initial funding, so that that risk can be sort of ours. And this is not only the private sector's responsibility. If our country's supply chain has to become sovereign, and we have to become Atmanirbhar, then both government and industry have to play a joint role in this. So that's problem number one. Problem number two, if I do R&D and if I start building components here, maybe for the first few months I am still going to be expensive because I am not building in large volume, because not everyone in India is buying from me, and also not many people across the world are buying from me. So there is some kind of incentivization that I need to sort of be having, so that my component, which is currently expensive today, becomes a little cheaper and is available for the entire domestic and global market. What is the federation doing about this? We are working very closely with very specific ministries in the government to bring out a new incentive scheme, or a new sort of incentive mechanism specifically targeted towards components. I believe it should come out very soon. This is the first time when drone components will probably get a very exclusive support for the ecosystem and will be sort of incentivized or accelerated. So that's what we are working on. Maybe few months is what the timeline looks like.
Got it. Thank you. I think, Commander, the next question is regarding Indrajal's first anti-drone patrol vehicle, ADPV, the Indrajal Ranger, which was designed for cross-border smuggling interdiction. So, could you walk us through a real-world scenario of, where the system like this would be deployed, and so that the audience can understand much better?
Right. So for the benefit of all the audience, Indrajaal Ranger is right outside. You can take a look. Naturally, it's at static right now. Okay. So when we started designing our product lines, one of the things that we quickly realized was counter drone systems are not going to be used only when there is a war kind of a situation. Okay. Counter drone systems are going to be even used when we are at peacetime, even for basic counter jamming, or even for tracking what is not ours. It's very important to understand. And what is not ours is something that's. So when we started interacting with the end customer who are guarding the borders, right? So they said we are always facing drones coming in from the border, not necessarily carrying a payload or an explosive. So when we started adding what the end customer gave as a feedback versus what we wanted to build as a product line, we quickly realized that we needed to catch these drones even during peacetime. Now, why do we need to catch these drones even during peacetime? Because these drones are not necessarily meant to come in and explode. These drones are meant to try and cripple the economic activity around the border. Okay, how do they do that? They can carry small payloads anywhere between 500 grams to 1 kg. What kind of payload are we talking about? We're talking about drugs. We're talking about hand pistols, right? In a trial, whilst doing delivery to the end customer, in a trial that ran over 6 days, we caught roughly 46 drones. And the total net worth of the drugs that were captured was roughly about 74 crores. Only in 6 days. Okay? And then we caught about 6 hand pistols. This is all happening when we're all sitting and talking here. That's the real world scenario we're talking about. So immediately we had to bolster up all our manufacturing strength and partner strength across Indrajaal Ranger. Right now we've built a supply chain good enough to probably produce about 10 Rangers every 3 months. It's still a long time where we catch up with the optimal efficiency, but the demand is pretty high right now, right? Purely for patrolling, nothing else.
Interesting. Ankit, I think my next question would be about physical AI. Do you think I will get a food delivery by a robotic humanoid or a physical robot, going in the next couple of years? Because I'm addressing the elephant in the room. I'm going to ask you a question about how autonomous can Skye get in the next 2 years or 3 years?
Yeah, I think let's not look at into how autonomous Skye can become, because we are still autonomous. It's just that the true potential of autonomy is only getting unlocked once the regulatory frameworks are built around it, right? Um, what's of the essence is how scaled autonomy can go to, right? Should it be just limited to one city, two cities, or should it go down to the majority of the population? That's when it sort of unlocks the real value potential for any technology which is evolving and which is getting built out here, right? How we see this whole thing evolving is we've got the drones, which is doing the piece where it's carrying about 10 kilos of a shipment. It's traveling to a distance of 7, 8 kilometers, 10 kilometers, 15 kilometers, whatever is the radius we can serve, and we can sort of go through that. And then delivering to a spot which we call as a sky pod. We install those infrastructure, secured mailboxes which are capable of receiving the packages through the drone, which sort of eliminates the drone from landing on the other side, right? So it's basically one mission. It goes, drops a package, and then comes back. And it's highly autonomous. It's level 4 autonomy today. Can go to level 5 once regulation unlocks it. Um, and when we talk about this entire thing happening in, now let's understand the consumer side of things. We are spoiled consumers, right? We want things to be delivered to our doorsteps, even in the times of COVID. I've seen that people are paying extra money to the security guards to get their shipments delivered during the COVID, right? And not go down and pick our own package from the mailboxes which are there and which are secured, right? You can just go in and put in the OTP and you can take out your package. That's highly secure environment that we sort of try to create in, but the consumer will not go there, and that's why you place a human today to take out those packages and go to your doorstep and do those deliveries. And then our country is so vibrant that we have different kinds of movement of packages which happens, right? We have got prepaid, we have got COD. There's this guy who has also go and collect cash because people don't believe in the platform or the D2C brand that they're ordering from, or they might think about changing the whole thing at a later stage after ordering. So they want that flexibility which is there, right? That's why I said we are a spoiled consumer. That if we are ordering something, we think about that. Hey, I have the flexibility to order today, but then wait for 2 days, and within that 48 hours, I may switch my mind, or I may get a better deal at some other platform, and I may cancel this entire order. Those happens a lot, right? Then we have got something called as very interesting in India, called as open box delivery, right? So Amazon and Flipkart came out with this concept of open box delivery when they started realizing that a lot of customers have started misutilizing the system in a way that any product which is above 10,000, 15,000 rupees, especially the phones and the iPhones, after receiving the packages, they were getting a lot of returns with the cause that the item is not there in the box. So they built in the concept to reduce those RTOs, those returns, by having an open box delivery where the delivery agent asks the customer to open the box in front of him or her to ensure that the product is delivered so that you cannot return it back. And those are high value items. You have seen about the iPhones. You open the box and you have found that it's not an iPhone, it's something else. And those returns have happened too many times, right? So it's a very vibrant country. We have very different scope of deliveries which are there. Now to eliminate each of those delivery or the mechanisms of delivery through robots is a hell of a task, right? It's not just about the robots collecting the packages and then going to your doorstep and delivering. It's about building the interactive layer of the robot having a conversation with you, where they're asking for the money. You might just pay like $100 instead of paying $500. Who is going to pay the rest of the $400, right? So I think there's different layers of things that we're solving for right now, which is very localized. It's India centric problems. These do not exist in the US. This do not exist in other markets. And I think we are solving those layers of problems, which when solved, um, I think it can truly unlock the last leg of the delivery through robots on a much, much higher scale, right? So the humanoid or the robots basically having a conversation with you in real time, exchanging things. Now he needs to converse on Sarvam AI maybe. Think about you're talking in Marathi to exchange the cash, and the guy doesn't understand. There can be there numerous amount of challenges, numerous amount of processing, and those processing needs to be right on the edge. So you need to have very large degree of compute modules to do those processing. So that's one of the reasons why we got inducted in the NVIDIA Inception program. We are part of NVIDIA's Inception program, where the NVIDIA's GPUs are used across the drone, the robots, and the mailboxes that we are installing in these locations. And there are different partnerships that we are sort of unlocking to ensure that we are able to work on solving the real world use cases which are typically there.
Interesting. Spoiled consumer category is something that I think Skye is looking at.
I'm one
I
of them.
wouldn't-
I'm one of them as well, right?
I wouldn't be surprised if I get pizza delivered when I'm stuck in traffic in Bangalore. I don't know how many of you can relate to it, but I surely can. But I think I would love to sort of understand from Indrajal's perspective, because public perception around drones have changed drastically after Operation Sindoor and also the West Asia conflict. So, what changed for Indrajal commercially, and what the government wants from the industry as well, right? I would like for you to answer for both of these questions.
Huh. What government wants from the industry? That's surprising. I don't think there's a straightforward answer to it. Okay. Right now, I think the focus has been rather the driving factor naturally is the West Asia conflict that's happening, and when we are getting a lot of inbound queries without doing too much of marketing, honestly. I don't think the marketing team of mine is going to agree to that, but yeah. So there's a lot of inbound queries that's happening in terms of being able to understand our technology first up, understand how we are approaching this entire problem of counter drone systems, how we are approaching the problem of low altitude airspace infrastructure. If autonomy is very different for Skye Air, autonomy in counter drone systems is also very different. Is it human in the loop? Is it human on the loop? Is it semi-manual? Is it fully automatic? These are all questions which come up when we are dealing with our end customers and things like that. But from a government perspective, what we are seeing is actually government is one of our biggest customers. So what we are seeing is that they are spending a lot of time getting educated on the technology itself, right? They're not simply placing orders the way it used to be before, right? That's one key change which we are seeing. The other change that we are seeing is that they are asking for upgradability because it's an evolving threatscape for us, right? See, we're not dealing with companies such as Skye Air, but we're dealing with companies which are using drones for the offensive. And that's an evolving threatscape. And we have to be doing the catch up whenever it comes because we're a defensive technology. So the government is waking up to that fact that how do we get to a point where we are ahead in terms of defending our critical infrastructure and borders? What do we need to do? That's a change in mindset that we are seeing right now, at least in the past 12 to 14 odd months, right? But otherwise, previously it was just the way it was.
Got it, got it. So I think I would love to ask Smith this question since we've heard from both the sides. What's one new safeguard or standard you'd like to introduce to ensure that scale doesn't come at the cost of security?
I think not just me, but this is being tried out all across the world. As the scale of drones start increasing in the Indian airspace, even though some industry members may not like it, it's very, very helpful for all of those industry drones, which is the compliant drones, to keep talking to government's online platform, keep sharing their location, so that when counter drone systems start getting deployed, they don't start randomly just detecting drones and treating them like a threat and start downing them or jamming them. So I think there is a simple example to this. When you want to track a friend's flight, you have a Flight Radar 24 app. It can show public information about all planes that are flying. Of course, that's a much more complex and a high power version of what drones require. So very simple version of that kind of architecture is required to bring data of all the drones flying in the airspace at one location, and then getting counter drone systems access to that so that they can essentially start identifying friends and foes. So someone has to really take up this and sort of solve this on behalf of the entire ecosystem to ensure that when drone deliveries start scaling, when drone operations start scaling, people don't look up in the air and start getting scared about drones. They have the confidence that a compliant drone will fly and a non-compliant drone will be shot down. So that's something that both of these people need to work together, and everyone needs to sort of build a ecosystem and an infrastructure around this.
To add to your point, Smith, I think one of the things that we have realized a little early because of the way we are designed in terms of counter drone systems is that trust becomes an important factor amongst different agencies if companies like Skye Air needs to scale, right? That's a very important point that the government needs to consider.
So good part is we are building a trust layer on all of this, and maybe in the coming few months when drone delivery starts getting scaled, this will already be in place. And of course, it's an evolving scenario, so we need to keep building on top of this.
Got it. Finally, I think we're almost done. I'd like to put one key question to all of you. Now, since we've sort of analyzed who really owns the sky, we've realized that it needs to be in parallel. I think even Indrajal and Skye Air, and of course, Smith would agree with this as well. But what is that one standard rule or framework that can make this coexistence possible, according to all of you?
I think the industry needs to still unlock. Like Smith mentioned, there are like 600 odd companies and 200 odd companies on the component side of it. Um, when you look at China, there are like 40,000 companies just doing drones, right? Uh, the sort of scale which is coming there in terms of manufacturing needs to happen out here. And one of the key things to unlock that, aside we have the technical capabilities, we have the best engineers in the world, right? I think it's the risk taking ability and the capital flow which needs to go in that particular direction, which needs to sort of enable this 800 companies to turn to become a 30,000 startup ecosystem for drones alone, right? And it could be multiple subsets of drones, counter drones, defense tech, multiple other things we're talking about, right? So I think from a potential perspective, while the government is trying to build around a lot of things on deep tech and multiple other layers and things are happening, it's largely the private sector which needs to come up very much in line and start creating and taking more risk in these areas. I still find a lot of conversations without naming any investors. A lot of conversations with investors are more around the, I think more of the traction part of it than anything else, right? I think we need to really come out of that mindset. The traction will come because the opportunity is huge in this entire market, and there's tons of opportunities for startups to come around. But those startups, for people who are very well settled in their jobs, working with ISRO, working with any other company, very well settled, family to take care of, financial liabilities, family liabilities, a lot of things which are there, right? We have a lot of societal pressures as well, which is typically there. For them to subside those particular things and just pursue the dream of developing something in this country needs to be very well complemented by the risk capital which is there, right? I was in the valley for last 15 days, 20 days, and the amount of risk capital and risk appetite that people have out there is massive, right? You get funded in 24 hours, $5 million to build a company which may shut down in a week's time. You don't know, but you need to try to know that, right? I think while we are progressing towards that, the progress has been slow. We need to progress more faster on that. We need to turn this from 800 companies ecosystem to a 30,000 companies ecosystem. Then only there's a comparable things that we can keep on drawing and keep on building around it. Yeah, that's my one thing that I feel that is very essential for the unlocking of the industry.
Got it. Commander?
Okay. I think all of us here, whether it's the industry or the government, one important thing that we need to realize is the low altitude airspace is a very different dynamic itself as compared to the land or the waters, right? Second thing is the entire airspace is a battlefield, unlike what it used to be before. So security and low altitude airspace economy needs to coexist. And we can't be in the hinterland as the way we used to be, where it's only the guys at the borders who are going to be fighting this. It's not the case anymore, because the low altitude airspace dynamic is extremely difficult and very, very complex and very, very different, right? We're talking about multiple layers, we're talking about multiple kinds of industries. You're leveraging this airspace, and there needs to be a secure infrastructure layer. And DFI, where Smith is leading this, industries which are leveraging this for economic activity, and we being another kind of business which is offering the security, all of us need to come together at some point in time without any doubt at all. And that's probably the important thing.
I think one of the things that I want to put across is that if we really want to see this drone economy and counter drone economy grow, accelerate, and become mainstream, I think everyone just needs to stop being scared. Imagine the future where you look up and you see hundreds of drones flying, delivering pizzas and doing a whole lot of stuff, and anxiously and excitedly work towards seeing that reality much more faster. Just stop being scared and adopt drones and make sure that we can start moving towards that reality very fast. That's one thing that more and more people need to do.
Lovely. I think scaling innovatively but still responsibly is the key takeaway from this session. But thank you so much. This was wonderful. I hope the audience were interested with wonderful insights about the drone sector in India. Thank you.